Just continuing on in Brazil for another couple of minutes. There's just two other pieces of important news to get to. This is a report from Michael Fox, who does great reporting at the Real News Network. There is a new movement building in Brazil to free Lula. And I just want you to take this in because, again, not only is this hugely innately important, but people here who might be responding to the onslaught of horror of the Bolsonaro regime, who still want to disconnect it from the broader political struggle of both Lula's imprisonment and the Workers' Party, you cannot do that. Like, if you want actual solidarity with the Brazilian left, they're saying this is part and parcel of what we're dealing with. Our main candidate, most popular politician in the country, was jailed without evidence and has been held on solitary confinement. That led to the rise. That was the final paving of a Bolsonaro regime and the Wall Street State Department agenda. This is the clip from the Real News.
We in the Brazilian Association of Lawyers for Democracy have been following this case for a long time, from the very beginning, with lawyers from across the country. And we consider both rulings against Lula to be complete judicial aberrations. There is no evidence against Lula.
A Free Lula vigil has been ongoing outside the federal prison in Curitiba, where Lula has been held since last April. There are committees dedicated to fighting for Lula's freedom in many cities, but those at the event called for the expansion of Free Lula committees around the country.
It's clear that we have to develop and root our organization with the Free Lula committees, not only to defend President Lula's innocence, but also to create a huge mass of activists to fight against the policies destroying the country that are being implemented right now.
In addition to that, in a great act of international labor solidarity, the AFL-CIO awarded Lula its 2019 George Meany and Lane Kirkland Human Rights Award on March 14, 2019. We'll put it up on screen. I'll quote from it briefly. As a migrant, a worker, a union leader, and a political visionary, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva spent his life fighting for democracy and the rights of workers and excluded communities in Brazil. As president, from 2003 through 2010, Lula led millions out of poverty and increased access to higher education, housing for poorer citizens. He became a leader revered worldwide by those who believe in a sustainable global economy rests on prosperity being broadly shared. The AFL-CIO therefore honors Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva with its annual George Meany Lane Kirkland Human Rights Award. In his commitment to increasing access to a decent life and basic rights as widely as possible, Lula has been faithful to his origins of the poor in the northeast of Brazil, where he grew up before migrating to São Paulo with his mother and 7 brothers and sisters. As the head of the Metal Workers Union in the 1970s, he led workers who confronted Brazil's dictatorship to democratize the workplace and unions. Lula was a crucial figure in the broad alliance of mass social movements, artists, intellectuals, women and men, and Brazilians of all races that brought democracy back to Brazil in 1985. And just scroll down a bit. It goes on to more about the successes of his presidency. But then they say, and this is also a shame for The Guardian, The New York Times, and everybody else who has covered this case so dishonestly, so credulously, so elitistly, stupidly in the United States. These elites, these privileged elites, have undermined Brazil's fragile democratic institutions, especially its judiciary, and took extraordinary legal measures to prevent Lula from running for president in October 2018, when all polls predicted his victory. Since April 8th, 2018, Lula has been a political prisoner convicted of, and this is a quote, this is literally what he's convicted of, unspecified official acts, with only plea bargain testimony as evidence against him. In defense of Lula of Brazil's constitution, he's been in prison in defiance of Brazil's constitution, he's been in prison while his appeals are still pending, blocked from receiving visitors, though that privilege is allowed to many other prisoners, and prevented from attending his brother's funeral. Although Brazil grants thousands of such bereavement leaves each month. In fact, Lula had more access to rights when he was arrested for his activism during the 70s dictatorship than he has in today's Brazil. Lula's crime is having the audacity to take well more than 30 million people out of poverty and challenge the privileges of the powerful elite. I'll tweet that out again. I recommend everybody read that statement. You've just watched a Michael Brooks show video, and you can watch all of our full main live shows every Tuesday night at around 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and subscribe to get all of the clips you want. We're covering the globe. We're focusing on international relations, the intellectual dark web. We're having fun. We're doing deep dives with a lot of amazing guests. Of course, become a patron for the whole thing at patreon.com/TMBS, or subscribe to this YouTube channel and help us keep growing and get that content out there. Subscribe below.